A snowstorm sealed off the mountain road the night a wounded woman walked into a forgotten gas station, and she wasn't alone. A former veteran and his German shepherd were the only ones there, and the only ones standing between her and the men hunting her. What started as a simple choice to open a door quickly became a fight he couldn't walk away from, not without losing something that mattered. In moments like this, you don't always get a second chance. Sometimes, God only gives you one chance to decide who you are. Where are you watching from, and what would you do in His place? Share your thoughts, and please like and subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers so we can keep telling stories like this. The wind had a way of getting inside things, not just through cracks in the walls or the seams around the windows, but deeper, into the bones of the place. The old gas station at the edge of the mountain road had been standing longer than it should have, and nights like this made it sound like it knew it. Logan Pierce sat behind the counter, one elbow resting near the register that hadn't balanced properly in years. The overhead light flickered once, then steadied, casting a pale, tired glow across the empty shelves and the coffee machine that had stopped pretending to work an hour ago. Outside, the snow moved sideways, not falling, cutting. Rexar lay near the door, head low between his paws. The German shepherd didn't sleep the way most dogs did. And his ears twitched at things Logan couldn't hear, his body alert even in stillness. One ear stood upright, the other bent slightly at the tip, a permanent mark from something neither of them ever talked about. Logan checked his watch. Still too early for morning, too late for anything else. The camera system had gone out last week, wires buried somewhere under ice and bad luck. The signal bars on his phone drifted between 1 and nothing at all. If something happened out here, it stayed out here. That had always been the point. He leaned back in the chair, letting it creak beneath him. There was a kind of quiet that came with isolation, not peaceful, not entirely. More like the absence of interruption, a space where nothing demanded anything from you. Until it did. Rexar's head lifted first, not abruptly, slowly, deliberately. Logan noticed the change before he heard anything. The dog's posture shifted, muscles tightening beneath his coat, eyes fixed on the storm beyond the glass. "What is it?" Logan murmured. No answer, of course, just that steady, unblinking stare. Then the sound came, faint at first, swallowed by the wind, an engine. Logan stood, moving toward the window. The glass was frosted at the edges, but he could make out the glow of headlights pushing through the snow. A vehicle, moving too fast for conditions like this, sliding slightly as it fought the road. The SUV came into view all at once, dark, expensive, out of place. It swerved into the lot, tires crunching hard over packed ice before correcting at the last second. The engine revved once, then dropped into a strained idle. Logan frowned. No one came out here by accident. Rexar was already on his feet. The dog didn't bark. He didn't rush forward. He simply stood between Logan and the door, weight shifted slightly forward, gaze locked on the vehicle. Then Logan saw it. Another set of lights. Farther down the road, partially hidden by the storm, but steady. Following. His jaw tightened. "Great," he muttered under his breath. The SUV door opened. A woman stepped out, one hand gripping the frame longer than necessary before she let go. She moved quickly after that, but there was a hitch in her step, subtle, controlled, but there. She wasn't dressed for panic. Long coat, pale against the storm, already catching snow along the shoulders. And dark hair pulled back tight, no loose strands whipping in the wind. Even from a distance, Logan could tell she was paying attention, not just to where she was going, but to everything around her. She reached the door and paused. Not knocking, not rushing in, waiting. Logan's hand moved instinctively toward the lock. There it was. That moment. Simple, clean, and heavier than it should have been. He could leave it locked, say nothing, let the situation pass him by the way most things did out here. No one would blame him. No one would even know. Behind him, Rexar let out a low, controlled growl. Logan glanced back. The dog hadn't moved aside. If anything, he'd stepped more firmly into the space between Logan and the door, not blocking him, just marking the line. Logan looked at the woman again. She didn't pound on the glass, didn't shout. Her eyes flicked once toward the distant headlights, then back to the door. Calculating. Measuring time. And then Logan saw the dark patch spreading across her sleeve. Blood. Not dramatic, not gushing, but real. He exhaled slowly. Yeah, he said under his breath, almost to himself. That figures. His fingers tightened briefly on the edge of the counter. Then he walked to the door. Rexar shifted, not moving out of the way entirely, just enough to let Logan pass, his body still angled toward the outside, ready. Logan unlocked the door, the click louder than it should have been. When he pulled it open, the wind forced its way in immediately, cold and sharp. The woman stepped forward, stopping just inside the threshold. Up close, she looked exactly like she had from a distance, composed, controlled, but there was something under it now. Not fear, not quite. Pressure. Her eyes met his, direct, unflinching. Logan held her gaze for a second longer than necessary, as if weighing something he couldn't quite put into words. Then he stepped back, giving her space. If you're coming in, he said, voice steady, almost flat, then come in now. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then she moved. The door closed behind her with a dull, final sound, sealing the storm outside. And just like that, whatever had been chasing her was now inside with him. The door shut and the storm disappeared, but not the tension. Logan didn't move right away. He stood near the entrance, one hand still on the handle as if the decision hadn't fully finished yet. The woman had already taken 3 steps inside, leaving a faint trail of melted snow behind her boots. She didn't look around like someone entering unfamiliar territory. She scanned, quick, precise, measuring distances, exits, obstacles. Rexar shifted closer to Logan's side, his body angled toward her. Not hostile, not welcoming either. The woman noticed. Your dog doesn't trust me, she said, her voice low but steady. Logan closed the door fully and slid the lock into place. He doesn't trust anything, he replied. That wasn't entirely true, but it was enough. And she gave a slight nod, accepting the answer without pushing it. Then she shrugged off her coat carefully, revealing the damage beneath. The fabric along her right shoulder was torn, darkened with blood that had started to dry at the edges. She didn't ask for help. She walked to the counter, found a stack of napkins, and pressed them against the wound with practiced efficiency. No hesitation, no wasted motion. Logan watched. You know what you're doing, he said. I know how to stop bleeding, she answered. That's usually enough. Not defensive, just factual. He moved behind the counter, opening a drawer that held things most customers never noticed. Bandages, antiseptic, a roll of gauze that had been there longer than he had. He set them down in front of her. And she glanced at the supplies, then at him. Thanks, she said. No softness in it, but not cold either. Rexar stepped forward half a pace, sniffing the air between them. The dog's ears flicked once, his gaze drifting briefly toward the road outside. Logan followed that glance, nothing visible. But something had changed. The woman finished wrapping her shoulder, tightening the bandage with a small wince she didn't try to hide. Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something small, a rectangular device no bigger than a matchbox. She placed it on the counter. It's probably still active, she said. Logan looked at it. Tracker? She nodded. Was on the car. I thought I lost them about 10 miles back. A brief pause. I was wrong. Logan let out a quiet breath. Yeah, he said. That happens. He didn't ask who they were, not yet. The wind outside shifted, carrying a different sound with it this time, faint but unmistakable. Engines, more than one. Rexar's posture changed instantly. Not tension this time. Focus. The dog moved toward the front window, positioning himself slightly to the side, not blocking the view, but guarding it. Logan stepped beside him. 2 headlights emerged first, cutting through the snow with controlled speed. Not sliding like the SUV had. Not struggling. Deliberate. They found you, he said. The woman didn't answer. She was already moving, not toward the door, not toward hiding. She adjusted her stance, testing her balance, her injured shoulder. Then she reached into the inside of her coat again. And this time, when her hand came out, it wasn't empty. A handgun. Compact, black, clean. Logan's eyes flicked to it, then back to her face. You planning on using that in here? He asked. If I have to. That's not a good plan. It's the only one I have. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Logan did something that shifted the air between them. He walked past her, not toward the back, toward the front door. He unlocked it. She turned sharply. "What are you doing?" "Changing the layout," he said. Before she could respond, the door opened. Cold air rushed in, and with it, two men stepped through the threshold. They looked like anyone you'd pass without remembering. Mid-30s, maybe early 40s. Heavy jackets, gloves, boots dusted with snow. No obvious weapons, no visible urgency. But their eyes moved differently. They didn't look at products. They looked at angles. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with a trimmed beard and a face that had learned to stay blank, gave a polite nod. "Evening," he said. Logan stepped behind the counter again, as if nothing had changed. "Coffee's dead," he said. Machine froze. The man smiled faintly. "That's all right. We're not here for coffee." Of course you're not, Logan thought. Rexar stood between them now, silent, watching. The second man, taller, thinner, with a restless energy that didn't quite stay contained, let his gaze drift across the room. He stopped when he saw her, just for a fraction of a second. Then he smiled. "There you are?" The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. The room tightened around them. And Logan felt it before anything moved, the shift, the line crossing from possibility into certainty. The woman didn't raise her gun. Not yet. But her weight shifted subtly, her body aligning, ready. Logan placed both hands flat on the counter. "Store policy," he said calmly. "No trouble inside." The taller man laughed under his breath. "Then you've got a problem," he replied, because trouble was already there. The silence didn't break. It tightened. The taller man's smile lingered just a second too long before fading into something flatter, more functional. The bearded one didn't move at all, just stood there, measuring distances the same way Logan had already done. No one reached for a weapon. Not yet, but the space between them had already changed shape. Logan shifted his weight slightly behind the counter, not enough to be obvious, just enough to feel where everything was, drawers, exits, blind angles. He could feel Rexar at his side without looking, the dog's presence like a second awareness running parallel to his own. The woman, Alara, spoke first. "You're late," she said. It wasn't defiance. It wasn't fear. It was observation. The bearded man tilted his head slightly. Road conditions," he replied. "You understand?" "I understand you don't miss," she said. Something flickered behind his eyes, not emotion, recognition. That was enough. Logan didn't need the rest spelled out. "These guys friends of yours?" he asked, his tone almost casual. Alara didn't look at him. "No." The taller man exhaled through his nose like he'd just heard something mildly disappointing. "That's not how this works," he said. "You don't get to define the relationship." Logan tapped the counter lightly with his fingers once, a small, almost absent gesture. Rexar's ears twitched. That was the signal. Logan reached under the counter, not for a weapon, but for the breaker switch mounted along the inner panel. He flipped it. The lights died instantly. Darkness swallowed the room. And not complete, just enough ambient glow from the storm outside, a pale gray leaking through the windows, shapes instead of details, movement instead of faces. Someone moved, fast. A chair scraped hard against the floor. Logan was already stepping sideways, not backward, never backward. He grabbed Alara's sleeve, pulling her off the direct line between the door and the counter. "Move," he said quietly. She didn't hesitate. That told him more than anything else. A shadow lunged forward, wrong direction, guessing, the taller man. Logan intercepted him halfway, redirecting momentum instead of stopping it. A sharp turn, a controlled push. The man stumbled into the edge of a display rack, knocking it sideways. No gunshot. Good. The bearded one didn't rush in. He adjusted. That was worse. Logan felt it immediately, the shift from aggression to calculation. "Back door," he said under his breath to Alara. "There's no exit," she replied just as quietly. "There is if you know where to look." He guided her along the counter, staying low. Rexar moved ahead of them, silent now, his body slipping through the dim light like he'd done this before. Behind them, the bearded man spoke, calm, controlled. "You really want to do this in the dark?" he said. "Accidents happen." Logan didn't answer. He was counting steps, 7 to the storage door, 2 more to the hinge that didn't sit right. The place had been falling apart for years, but some of those flaws worked in his favor. Alara kept pace beside him, one hand pressed against her bandaged shoulder, the other steady at her side. Who are they?" Logan asked. "Internal cleanup," she said. "When something leaks, they erase the source." "That you?" "That's the idea." They reached the door. Locked. Of course it was. Logan didn't slow down. He slammed his shoulder into the weak point near the frame. Once, twice. The wood cracked. Behind them, footsteps adjusted direction. Faster now. "Third time," Logan muttered. The door gave. Cold air rushed in from the storage corridor. Narrow, cluttered, barely lit by a single emergency bulb that flickered weakly. They slipped through. Logan pulled the door halfway shut behind them. Not fully. Never fully. A closed door became a target. A half-open one became uncertainty. Rexar stopped suddenly. Not growling. Listening. Logan froze. There it was. A second sound. Not from the front. From behind. Alara turned slightly. "They split?" "No," Logan said quietly. "They planned it." For the first time since she'd stepped inside, something shifted in her expression. Not fear. Something closer to recognition. "They knew I'd run," she said. "Yeah," Logan replied. "And now they know where you ran too." For a brief second, neither of them moved. Then Alara reached into her coat again. Not for the gun this time, but for the small device she'd placed on the counter earlier. She pressed it into his hand. "If I don't make it out," she said, her voice lower now, stripped of everything but clarity, "this matters more than I do." Logan looked at the object, light, small, worth killing for. He closed his fingers around it. "That's not how this works," he said. She met his eyes. That's exactly how it works." Rexar shifted again, this time stepping slightly in front of Logan, his body angled toward the deeper darkness of the corridor. Waiting, choosing. Logan exhaled slowly. "Then we move," he said, because standing still was no longer an option. The corridor didn't feel narrow anymore. It felt measured. Every inch of space had already been accounted for by someone else. Logan stood still, one hand wrapped around the small device Alara had given him, the other hovering near the wall as if he could steady the entire structure by touch alone. Rexar remained slightly ahead, body angled, ears fixed forward, not reacting, but waiting. That was the problem. When Rexar waited, it meant something worse was coming. A crackle cut through the silence, not from the building, from Alara's coat. She stiffened slightly, then reached inside and pulled out a small comm unit, thin, dark, almost invisible against the fabric. She hadn't mentioned it before. Of course she hadn't. The device lit briefly, then a voice came through, calm, controlled. Familiar in a way that suggested it had spoken orders more often than questions. "Ms. Quinn?" Alara didn't respond immediately. Logan watched her face, saw the shift, not fear, not surprise, recognition, something older than either. "Adrian?" she said at last. The voice on the other end softened slightly, like someone greeting an old colleague. "I was hoping we could avoid this kind of inconvenience," Adrian Voss said. "Weather like this makes everything inefficient." Logan leaned back against the wall, listening without interrupting. He didn't need details to understand the structure of the moment. This wasn't a chase anymore. It was a negotiation. "You sent a team," Alara said. "That usually means you've already decided." "I sent options," Adrian replied. You chose the complicated one." A pause. Then his tone shifted. Just enough. "You're not alone." Logan felt it before the words landed. Rexar's head turned slightly, not toward the voice, but toward Logan, acknowledging. Adrian continued. "The man you're with, Logan Pierce, correct?" he said. "Former service, night shift, remote location. You do have a type, Alara." Logan didn't react outwardly. Inside, something tightened. "You've done your homework," Alara said. "I always do." Another pause, longer this time. Then the offer came, clean and simple. "Send her out," Adrian said, addressing Logan directly now. "No one gets hurt. You walk away. Compensation will be arranged, generously." Logan let out a quiet breath. Money, safety, distance, all the things people usually wanted. Rexar stepped back half a pace, closer to Logan, not away from the danger, not retreating, aligning. Alara didn't speak. She didn't argue. She just stood there, waiting. For him. Logan looked down briefly at the device in his hand, small, silent, heavy. He thought about what Adrian had said, not the offer, but the certainty behind it. This wasn't a guess, it was a calculation, a system that already assumed outcomes before they happened. That kind of system didn't leave room for accidents, only decisions. Logan lifted his head slightly. "You picked the wrong place," he said. No anger, no emphasis, just a statement. On the other end, Adrian exhaled, almost amused. "That's what everyone says," he replied. Right before they realize they're standing in the middle of something much bigger than they are. Logan didn't answer. He didn't need to, because the next part wasn't about words. It was about timing. A sound echoed faintly from the front of the building, glass shifting under pressure, not breaking yet, but close. They were repositioning. "Last chance," Adrian said. Logan looked at Alara. For the first time, her composure slipped, not visibly, but in the smallest way. Her eyes held his, not asking, not demanding, accepting. If he chose to walk away, she wouldn't stop him. That made it worse. Rexar moved again, stepping forward, this time placing himself directly between Alara and the deeper corridor. Not defensive, definitive. Logan nodded once. "Yeah," he said quietly. You really did pick the wrong place." He reached up and crushed the comm unit against the wall. The connection died in a burst of static. Silence followed, then movement, fast. The front of the station erupted, not in a clean break, but in a controlled entry. Glass shattered inward, followed by shadows cutting through the dim light. 3 figures this time, disciplined, coordinated, not guessing anymore. Logan grabbed Alara's arm, pulling her toward the side access that led back toward the main structure. The storage corridor wouldn't hold, not against this kind of push. "They're not here to scare us," he said. "I figured that out," she replied, breath tight but controlled. A sharp crack split the air, gunfire, not wild, targeted. And one shot punched into the wall just inches from where Logan had been a second earlier. "Move," he said. They broke into motion, cutting through the narrow space between machinery and stacked crates. Logan's mind mapped the layout automatically, angles, cover, choke points. But even as he moved, he knew. This place wasn't built to withstand this kind of pressure. Another shot. Closer. Alara stumbled slightly, her injured shoulder finally slowing her down. Logan caught her before she hit the ground, steadying her without breaking stride. Behind them, footsteps closed in. Not rushing. Advancing. They reached the auxiliary storage room, a smaller space, lined with old equipment and rusted tanks. Logan stopped, looked around, measured. Then he saw it. And the portable gas canisters stacked along the far wall, the backup generator beside them, cables exposed where someone had tried and failed to fix it months ago. Not ideal, but enough. Alara followed his gaze. "No," she said immediately. "That's not controlled." "It doesn't need to be," Logan replied. Another shot echoed from the corridor. Too close now. He moved fast, grabbing the generator, ripping loose the connection panel, sparks flickering weakly in protest. Rexar positioned himself at the doorway, low, silent, ready. Alara watched Logan, something shifting in her expression again, not doubt, not fear, understanding. "You're burning it," she said. "I'm leaving it," he corrected. He tipped one of the canisters, letting fuel spill across the floor in a thin, spreading line. As the smell hit instantly, sharp, final, Logan looked back once, toward the corridor, toward the shape of the place he'd held together for longer than it deserved. Then he struck the ignition. Flame caught fast, not an explosion, a surge, fire racing along the fuel line, crawling outward, feeding on everything it touched. Heat followed, light, and suddenly the darkness was gone, replaced by something worse. Behind them, the advancing figures hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. Enough. Logan grabbed Alara again. "Now," he said. And together, with Rexar at their side, they ran, leaving the station behind them as it began to burn piece by piece. The fire behind them didn't follow, but the light did. It stretched across the snow like something alive, flickering orange against white, shrinking slowly as distance swallowed it. Logan didn't look back again after the first glance. He didn't need to. What mattered was ahead, and what was still behind them. The storm had thickened. Snow hit harder out here, unbroken by walls or structures. It filled the air, erased edges, turned distance into guesswork. The ground wasn't flat, subtle rises and dips hidden beneath layers of powder, waiting to catch a misstep. Alara stumbled again. Not dramatic, just enough. Logan adjusted his grip on her arm, redistributing weight without slowing completely. "You need to stay upright," he said. I am upright." "That's not the same thing." Her breathing had changed, still controlled, but heavier now, dragged down by blood loss and cold. The bandage at her shoulder had darkened again, barely visible under the accumulating snow. Rexar moved ahead, then circled back, refusing to get too far. His pace wasn't frantic. It was measured, checking, recalculating, adjusting to both of them. Logan scanned the terrain. He knew this stretch. Not perfectly, but enough. There was a tree line ahead, denser coverage. If they could reach it, visibility would drop further. It wouldn't stop pursuit, but it would complicate it. Behind them, the sound came. Not loud, not careless. Boots, more than one set, closing. "They're still on us," Alara said. Logan didn't answer. And he angled them slightly left, toward the shadowed slope he remembered. The ground dipped there, steeper than it looked. Risky footing, but it forced anyone following to slow. Another step. Another. Then the shot came, a single crack, sharp against the muffled world. Snow kicked up inches from Logan's right side. Not a warning, a correction. "They're adjusting," he said. Alara didn't respond this time. Her steps had shortened, rhythm breaking. Logan felt it through his grip. She was fading. He slowed just enough to pull her closer. "Stay with me," he said quietly. "I'm here." But she wasn't, not fully. Rexar stopped suddenly, not ahead. Behind. Logan turned just as the dog moved. A shadow broke from the storm, fast, low, cutting distance with purpose. And one of the pursuers had separated from the others, using the terrain better than the rest. Too close. Rexar didn't hesitate. He launched forward. No warning, no sound. Impact came hard, bodies colliding in the snow. The man went down, but not cleanly. He rolled, arm twisting, something metallic flashing in his hand. Logan swore under his breath. "Alara, stay down!" He let go of her and turned back, already moving. Rexar had the man pinned for a second, just enough, but the man recovered faster than expected. A trained response. He drove his elbow up, breaking the hold just enough to bring the weapon around. Too fast. The shot fired, short, contained. Rexar jerked back. The sound didn't echo the same way gunfire usually did. It was smaller, but the effect wasn't. And the dog hit the snow hard, sliding slightly before going still. Everything narrowed. Logan didn't think. He moved. 2 steps, 1 shift of weight, and he closed the distance. He caught the man's wrist before the second shot could line up, forcing it wide. The struggle was brief, sharp, efficient. Logan redirected force instead of meeting it, driving the man's balance into the slope beneath them. The man slipped. That was enough. Logan didn't follow through. Didn't need to. He let gravity finish the rest. Then he turned. Rexar lay half on his side, chest moving, but wrong. Too shallow, snow already clinging to his fur, melting where it touched heat. Logan dropped beside him. "Hey," he said, voice lower now, steadier than he felt. "Stay with me." The dog's eye opened slightly, focused. At present, alive, but hurt, bad. Behind him, Alara's voice cut through. "Logan, we don't have time." He didn't answer. His hand hovered over the wound, pressing just enough to slow the bleeding. Warmth spread against his palm, sharp and immediate. Boots in the snow again. Closer, multiple. Alara stepped nearer, unsteady but upright. "If we stay, we all go down," she said. Not cold, not detached, clear. Logan didn't look at her. He looked at Rexar. The dog didn't whine, didn't struggle, just watched him. Steady, waiting, trusting. That was the problem. That was always the problem. Logan exhaled once, slow. Then he moved. He slid one arm under Rexar's body, lifting carefully. The weight hit immediately, solid, real, impossible to ignore. Alara stepped back, surprised. "Oh, you can't carry both," she said. "I'm not leaving him. That's not the decision anymore. It is for me." He shifted Rexar's weight against his chest, tightening his hold until it balanced. Not comfortable, not sustainable, but possible. For now. Alara stared at him for a second longer. Then something changed. Not agreement, acceptance. She stepped to his side, adjusting her pace to match his. "Then we move together," she said. Logan nodded once. Behind them, the storm swallowed shapes but not intent. They moved forward, slower now, heavier, each step a calculation between distance and time. The tree line loomed closer, not safety, just the next place to keep going, the rest blurred, fragments of movement, cold cutting deeper. And the sound of pursuit fading, not gone, but no longer immediate. By the time the first light of morning touched the horizon, they had reached something resembling distance, not escape, just space. Weeks later, the world looked different, cleaner, quieter. The storm had passed. Logan stood at the edge of another stretch of snow, farther from the road, farther from anything that needed a name. Rexar lay nearby, a rough bandage wrapped along his side, healing slow but steady. The dog's breathing was even now, alive. That was enough. Footsteps approached behind him, not hidden, not cautious. Alara stopped a few feet away. She looked different without the urgency, still composed but less sharp around the edges, like something had shifted even if she hadn't fully decided what it meant yet. It's done, she said. Logan didn't turn. Nothing's ever done, he replied. Enough to matter, she said. The data reached the right people. It's moving. He nodded slightly. That tracked. She hesitated, then continued. I tried to fix it from the inside, she said. Followed every rule, every process. A small pause. It didn't work. Logan glanced toward Rexar. The dog's ear flicked once. You didn't follow rules, she added. You just acted. Logan let out a quiet breath. Didn't feel like much of a plan. It wasn't, she said. That's why it worked. Another silence. Not empty this time, measured. I'm building something, she said finally. A way to protect people who end up where I did, before it gets this far. Logan didn't respond. I need someone who understands what it costs, she added. Someone who won't wait for permission. He looked down at his hands, at the faint scars, the ingrained habits, the things that didn't go away. Then at Rexar. Still here. Still breathing. Still trusting. Snow drifted lightly between them. No pressure, no urgency, just a choice, waiting to be made. Logan lifted his head, looking out across the empty white. He didn't answer, not yet. Sometimes the hardest choice isn't between right and wrong. It's between saving yourself and refusing to become the kind of person who walks away. Logan didn't win because he was stronger, or faster, or even smarter. He stood his ground because something inside him refused to leave what mattered behind. Not a stranger, not a life, not even a wounded dog who couldn't follow. In a world that often rewards convenience over conviction, moments like that don't look heroic. They look quiet, costly, invisible to most people, but they shape everything. Maybe you faced a moment like that in your own life, a decision no one else would see, where doing the right thing felt heavier than doing the easy thing. And maybe you're still carrying that weight. If so, you're not alone. And sometimes grace doesn't come as rescue. Sometimes it comes as the strength to choose who you are, even when no one is watching. And sometimes that choice becomes the beginning of something you never expected. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to share what you felt or what it reminded you of. I read every comment. And if you want more stories like this, stories about quiet courage and the choices that define us, consider subscribing. Wherever you are tonight, I hope you find the strength to stand for what matters and the peace that comes after.